Everyone's always thinking about the best, strongest, or coolest weapons. But what about the shields in Gundam? At their most basic, they might just be slabs of metal designed to take a few hits that you couldn't dodge, but as this list will soon show, they can be so much more. Also, keep in mind that I'm talking about traditional shields here and not defensive systems. We'll go over those some other time. But what we will go over right now is today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends, the awesome looking RPG that took phone gaming by storm and has since also become available on PC. It's got over 600 champions for you to collect, upgrade, and put into your team. Champions like Ethos over here. Just look at that shield he's holding. But don't let it deceive you, he's actually a beast with his AoE attacks. Or go for Necroth the Great, who also has a really cool shield which he uses to defend his allies. Both great choices for raid bosses, dungeon runs, PvP arena matches, and campaign battles. The latter, by the way, being one of the best ways to level up your champions. You'll get XP, a ton of silver, and some artifacts at the same time. And they're constantly adding new champions too. Right now the big event is the Deliana Chase, where you can get the High Elf Deliana just by logging in and playing Raid. Do this for 7 days between now and July the 20th, and you'll get one of the strongest support champions for free. And if you're a new player, there's even more stuff you can get by signing up through the QR code on screen or the link down below. You'll get 3 champions, Misericord, Tiger Soul, and Romero, 10 Magic XP brews, 10 Fort XP brews, and 10 Spirit XP brews. And when you're in-game, you can use the code MyDeliana to get an extra 50 XP brews to instantly max out your Deliana and get a ton of silver. But without any further ado, let's start off with the simplest entry on this list. With one of the Federation's main strengths being their fleet, and one of Zeon's main strengths being the ability to crush said fleet, it shouldn't come as a surprise that the Federation would try to come up with a mobile suit that could defend said fleet. And the answer was simple. Make a variation of the high-performance Gym Sniper Custom, the Gym Guard Custom, and give it a giant shield, the Guardian Shield. This massive shield has an anti-beam coating applied to it to protect against beam weaponry, and it consisted of a whopping 5 layers of 4 different metal alloys to protect against physical damage. And again, as simple as this concept was, it was a huge success. The Gym Guard Custom succeeded in their defensive roles, and many of these machines would survive the 1-year war. You know your shield is good when you're actively using it to take damage for your vulnerable allies, and you still survive. And since we're on the topic of gyms and shields, the Gym Cold Districts type. And if you think that its shield looks kinda normal, that's not why it's on the list as a dishonorable mention. Next up then, we have the shield that inspired this list, the Gouf Customs Gattling Shield. Is it a shield with a Gatling gun or a Gatling gun with a shield? You decide for yourself, but the one thing we can all agree on is that it looks plain badass. The Gouf Custom by itself was an upgrade of the already awesome looking Gouf, and the inclusion of that Gatling shield made it an instant fan favorite. For good reason. Not only does it look amazing, but it also performs equally well. With its 6 75mm barrels, it can easily shred most Federation mobile suits, and when it runs out of ammo, the Gatling gun simply slides off the shield. And it's still got one more surprise packed in there. The Heat Sword Type D3, another one of the Gouf Customs signature weapons. And for even more firepower, the shield is usually hooked up to the arm through a 3-barrel 35mm machine gun, because you can never go wrong with even more daga. And fortunately for us shield Gatling loving Gundam fans, we do also have other awesome options like the Heavy Arms, Saigu, IWSP Striker Pack, and one we'll talk about in a second. Sticking with the weaponized shields then, we have the Blitz Gundam's Trikeros or Trikeros offensive shield system. One of my personal favorites of this list because of how balanced it is. Basically, it's the Swiss Army knife of shields. It packs a lot of things into a handy form factor without being overkill or overly bulky. It comes with a 50mm high energy beam rifle as its main weapon, 3 Lancer Dart hypervelocity kinetic armor penetrators which implode on impact, making them ideal for armor targets with anti-beam coating, and for close combat it has a simple beam saber. For defensive purposes then, it has phase shift armor, making it invulnerable to physical weapons, and an anti-beam coating for protection against beam weapons. No matter the situation, the Trikeros will be there for you. But if you want something with a bit more oomph, then maybe the Delta Kai shield is more up your alley. It comes with 2 beam sabers that can double as beam cannons, and then your choice of one of 3 optional weapons. The burst bolt for if you want to shock your enemy, 2 mega machine cannons for when you want to riddle the enemy with bullets, or the high mega cannon for when you want the enemy, his friends, and his ship to be gone from existence. With an energy output of 23 megawatts, I'm fairly certain that this is the most powerful shield-mounted weapon out there, and as with the Unicorn's Beam Magnum, the beam doesn't even need to hit you to destroy you. So when you see anyone with this shield coming near you, run. And fortunately, there's a shield just for that. The shield booster made famous by the Hazel series. Just as its name indicates, it's a shield that can give your mobile suit some extra defensive capabilities and some extra speed. How many you use is entirely up to you and the mobile suit you're using. A standard machine can have 1 on each arm for an already very substantial boost, the regular Hazel can have 1 extra on its backpack, the advanced Hazel can have 2 extra on its backpack, and then there's also this thing from the Fruitadoo that allows 2 shield boosters per arm. Also, if you want some extra weapons, there's also this version that comes with extra laser guns to defend against incoming missiles. However, this does mean that it carries less propellant than the regular shield boosters. So yeah, as always with the Hazels, the possibilities are endless. Or, if you want to go somewhere in style, there's also the Gundam Maxter shield. It is a rocket-powered hoverboard that can also function as a shield. But then you'd risk breaking your totally rad hoverboard, dude. So, now we've seen shields boasting overwhelming firepower and overwhelming mobility, but what if we combined them into one? Introducing the Divider shield from the Gundam X Divider. And when your Gundam is named after its shield, you know that it's a damn good shield. Especially when you take into consideration that this was something that was just cobbled together out of spare parts. It can be used as a normal shield, but thanks to the thrusters on the top and the bottom, it can instantaneously give the Gundam X an extra boost mid-fight. But to really give the Gundam a boost, the shield can also fold up and be equipped on the backpack. Now the Gundam X isn't just faster, but it can also hover or fly for extended periods of time. And the other thing that folding up the shield reveals is the Harmonica. 6 triple-barreled beam cannons that can either be fired individually or combine their firepower into one deadly beam. And continuing with the deadly shields, we have the 00 Quanta's GN shield. Unlike most other shields from the Gundam universe, it's not mounted on the forearm or the shoulder, but it's instead connected to the backpack. Under normal circumstances, the shield hangs over the shoulder, but it can also swing backwards to link up the second GN drive that it houses with the primary GN drive on the Quanta's backpack. A configuration that increases the machine's quantum field of communications. Another feature of the GN drive housed in the shield is that it can disperse GN particles to create a GN field. Not that it ever needed to do that in the show, because the shield by itself was already plenty strong enough to tank most things thrown at it, including shots from battle cruisers. And to defend against incoming missiles, it was outfitted with a beam gun. And then for offensive purposes, it housed 6 multifunctional GN sword bits. They can act as remote weaponry, they can be handheld, they can combine with the GN Sword 5, and they can even work together to form a GN field. Another very multifunctional shield. And talking about remote weaponry, what if instead of housing remote weaponry, the shield itself could become the remote weaponry, like the Unicorn shield, or shields, depending on the configuration. In its normal configuration, it carries just 1, but in full armor mode, it carries up to 3. And at first glance, they're nothing too special. They're nice looking transformable shields that can carry extra weaponry like a twin beam Gatling gun or a beam javelin, and they also have an eye field generator that can block beam attacks. But as with many things, it's what's on the inside that really counts. Despite not having any thrusters, thanks to the Psycho frame, the shields can still be used as remote weapons once the Unicorn enters destroy mode. And when the beam Gatling guns are attached, this not only allows for omnidirectional defense, but also omnidirectional Daka. And this concept was further improved upon with the Armed Armor DE. The first iteration saw the introduction of thrusters and a mega cannon, and would later be further upgraded with a tail-like stabilizer for better attitude control. The shields also help with blocking a Doomsday weapon, although it's difficult to say how much the shields did, with most of the blasts seemingly being blocked by a combination of new type magic and plot armor. Next up then, we have the Humble Beam Shield. They come in a variety of shapes, colors, and universes, but most of them are very similar in how they function. A small generator that generates a beam that can block everything, as long as it's powered. But the Victory 2 does things a little bit differently. While it does still have a standard beam shield on each arm, it now also has a shield with 3 generators that function as bits to generate a giant beam shield. And at maximum size, it's even set to be able to cover a battleship. And because they're bits, they're both extremely agile and can also be easily used to defend allied units. And when it comes to offensive capabilities, this shield is no pushover either. The 2 shield bits on the side can also form a very long beam blade between them and the shield, and the V on the shield is capable of shooting out a V-shaped beam. Relatively speaking, the range isn't very long, but its power is very formidable. Which then also makes me wonder if they could make shields with all letters of the alphabet, or like the kanji for kill or something, or defend. And then finally, we started with a purely defensive shield, so let's also end it with a purely defensive shield. The G-Self Perfect Pack comes with the Photon Armor Shield, which is also nicknamed the Copy-Paste Shield because of its very unique ability. Rather than just blocking enemy beam attacks, it absorbs them and uses their energy for itself. It also looks really cool when in action. And that has been all for the best shields of Gundam. Let me know down below which one is your favorite, whether it was on this list or not. A big thanks to Raid for sponsoring this video. Again, link to try it out down below. As always, another big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.